Victoria was Queen of the United Kingdom and the British Empire for most of the 19th century, from 1838 to 1901. The Victorian era is known in history as the Golden Age of the British Empire and the era of peace and prosperity across Europe. She received the title of Empress of India during the premiership of British Prime Minister Benjamin Disraeli in 1877. Although Victoria had never travelled outside of Europe, she sought to keep in contact with the inhabitants of the empire around the world, especially the indigenous peoples. In the last decades of her reign, Victoria's predominant popular image was the grim widow of Windsor, who presided over an empire over which the sun never set. Victoria was the first British monarch to commemorate the 50th and 60th anniversaries of her ascension to the throne by public celebrations. The 1887 Golden Jubilee highlighted Victoria's role as the grandmother of Europe. The Jubilee parade that year was dominated by the Queen's children and grandchildren who had married in royal houses across Europe. In contrast, the 1897 Diamond Jubilee celebrated Victoria as the mother of the British Empire. Queen Victoria's Diamond Jubilee began solemnly with a family Thanksgiving service at Windsor Castle on Sunday, June 20, 1897, the 60th anniversary of her ascension to the throne. The next day, the Queen returned to London to find Union Jacks covering the balconies of the houses and the city full of patriotic pride. On June 21, the Prince of Wales, the heir to the throne, offered a special dinner to the colonial premiers. 24 chefs from Paris were brought in for the occasion, and the centerpiece was a crown higher than a man made of 60,000 orchids, collected from all parts of the empire. On Tuesday, June 22, the day of the Diamond Jubilee parade in London, it was declared a public holiday in Great Britain and in all places where the British flag flew. 3 million people went to London to celebrate. A 6-mile large parade crossed London, from Buckingham Palace to St. Paul's Cathedral. Cheers and chants continued into the night, presumably helped by the pubs, which remained open until the special 2:30 a.m. time. The greatest spectacle of all, and the most impressive display of British power, was the naval examination at Spithead the following Saturday, between the south coast of England and the Isle of Wight. Spectators had arrived from all over England, filling local towns, lining the coast, and hiring dozens of tourist boats. German steamships drew crowds of Germans fascinated by this display of naval power. Overseas, communities across Canada held their own ceremonies in honor of the Queen. Victoria was a popular state figure in Canada throughout her reign. In Rangoon, Burma, 600 prisoners were released, and in Port Said in Egypt, there was a water sports event. Telegrams flocked to London from every part of the empire. Queen Victoria's Diamond Jubilee was a landmark event in the history of Britain and has set a precedent in European history. Victoria's Jubilee was followed by the Jubilee of the Austrian Emperor Franz Joseph and other European kings up to the Diamond Jubilee in 2012. Of Queen Elizabeth II. As in 1897, Thanksgiving service took place at St. Paul's Cathedral. The 2012 celebrations also celebrated an international flavor, but unlike in 1897, when Dominion's premiers travelled to London, Elizabeth's children and grandchildren travelled to all the worlds of the Commonwealth in 2012. If you liked today's episode, make sure you listen to the companion podcast for much more information about this historic event. You can listen here on YouTube or on any of your favorite podcast apps. Click on the like button if you enjoyed this episode and make sure you subscribe to follow the next ones.